Hello guys, this is Ben in Parts here. Welcome to episode 38 of this Cryptid cast series where I break down cryptids, their sightings, their possibilities, what they could or couldn't be and if they could be real or not. And today I have the bird beast or bird beasts of Var, an absolutely fantastic story about some cryptids that might actually be cryptids that were built by aliens and sent to Earth for some reason. So what are the bird beasts of Var? Well, this story dates from 1962 on a desolate stretch of French road, where a businessman claimed to have encountered this big gang of aggressive bird-like beasts, and they didn't only block his car, but allegedly attacked him. The man was only referred to as Mr. S. In this story, he's only referred to as Mr. S, a solidly built man in his 50s who ran an important garage in Harol in France. And his story, like many good stories, begins on a dark and stormy night. One evening in November 1962, he was driving along a minor departmental road in Var. He claims it was a dark night, the rain was torrenting, and he was driving with his full lights on. However, rounding a bend, he saw 80 meters ahead a group of figures clustered in the middle of the road. He slowed down to avoid them, and at the same time it split into two parts, very jerkily and very suddenly. His window was down, and when he leaned his head out slightly to see what was the matter, he claims he saw beasts. Some bizarre animals that had heads of birds, were covered with plumage, and they were hurling themselves from two sides toward the car. He was absolutely terrified, and he wound up the window, accelerated ferociously, and stopped 150 meters, about 500 feet further on. He turned round and saw these creatures heading in a kind of flapping, undulating motion toward a luminous dark blue object which hung in the field, in the air, on the other side of the road. So these beings were not only attacking his car, but then they were going up to a flying saucer, which was exactly what he described it as. He described it as two plates upside down and placed on top of one another. And then on reaching this UFO, the birds, as he described them, were literally sucked into the underpart of the machine, like by a whirlwind. Then he heard a dull clacking sound, the object zoomed off into the sky and finally disappeared. So, an amazing encounter. Not only do we have these bird-like, griffin-like creatures, phoenix-like creatures that were bipedal, but at the same time had wings and had beaks, but we also have them disappearing off into a UFO. Now, this encounter was anonymous. There was no claims to substantiate it. No one did any further research to ascertain who this man might be, and indeed he wants to remain anonymous. But it's a very fascinating encounter because we have a link between bird-like cryptids that are often seen, and now we have a specific link from some bird-like cryptids to a UFO. They were sucked into the bottom of the UFO. So it raises a number of possibilities. The first possibility is that these cryptids were abducted by the UFO. That is, the UFO was in the area and these bird-like creatures were there, and the UFO, maybe on some kind of scientific mission, saw them and thought, this is a chance, and it sucked them up and abducted them. So some strange creatures from Earth were abducted by some strange creatures from another planet, which is a fascinating theory that someone put forward. The second theory is that these were some kind of spirits, aka jinns, aka spirit guides, some kind of shape-shifting hostile spirit, and they were going up and reuniting with another hostile spirit. So in other words, this UFO was not a flying saucer, it was a spirit itself that was maybe gathering up its children, gathering up its allies, gathering up its friends in some kind of strange or bizarre vision, which is something that a few commentators have put forward. And the third theory is that these were aliens or alien creatures of some kind being taken up into a UFO. And the fascinating theory here is that maybe they weren't the aliens per se, maybe they were the aliens' creatures. The aliens had created these creatures for some purpose. Maybe they were reconnaissance groups, maybe they were biologically controlled beings with chips in their heads that were meant to reconnoiter Earth. Maybe they were some kind of alien food source like chickens that were bred for food and had gotten loose or gotten away. Maybe they were some kind of shape-shifting alien themselves that were scouting out the planet. I personally think number 3 is much more likely. I think they were probably creatures created by the aliens for some reason. They seem very animalian. They don't seem very intelligent. They don't seem to have a high level of intelligence. They don't seem to have a high level of coordination. They don't seem like very disciplined, militaristic space visitors. They seem ungainly. They seem uncoordinated. They seem more like scouts or creatures. I believe that these creatures were created by the aliens in some way for some purpose. Maybe they were meant to scout out the ground, maybe they were meant to reconnoiter, maybe they were meant to fetch food for the aliens or search something up, and they were doing something on that road, maybe scouting around, when they were interrupted. They, due to their animalian natures, like many other Earth animals, got cross, they attacked this person's car, and then the aliens, maybe through some chips in their head or through some kind of subliminal signal, summoned them back up, they were sucked back up into the UFO, and the UFO sped off. I think these were alien creatures, possibly created through Earth creatures, possibly created on their own planet through their own creatures with their own genetics, and I think they were being used for some kind of purpose that was interrupted. If indeed this story is true. The other possibility, obviously, is that this story is a hoax because it was never corroborated. Never corroborated, never verified, there was little research done. But what do you guys think? Has anyone ever seen creatures like this? Have you ever seen any small griffin-like creatures? Have you ever had small griffin-like creatures attack your car? Never thought I'd have to say that one. Please post your comments below. I would absolutely love to read them. Please check out my other videos and my other stories and my other lectures, and stay tuned for episode 39.